This podcast is a proud member of the Unidentified Network.
On the Track is a monthly web TV show about cryptozoology, natural history, green issues, and whatever else the team feel like making up as they go along. Enjoy!
So, what's on today's show, Mr. John?
Well, Hennis, in this week's enthralling episode, it's the second part of Richard Freeman's Bottom 10. The creatures he thinks that cryptozoological people believe in, but actually don't exist. And just like last week, expect controversy to reign and sparks to fly.
I really like the old credits.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name's Jon Downes. I'm the director of the Centre for Fortean Zoology, and welcome to another episode of Gosh, what's happening over there? Do my eyes deceive me? No, they don't. It's our old friends Steve Andrews and Brute Force with their collaborative new single, We Can Sing Together.
We can sing together. We can carry a tune to everyone in the world, to the eagles and the loons, all of us together. We can convey that we care, so peace would be the word spoken everywhere. Yes, states and countries are just different names for the home we share. Our home is the same. We can sing together. We can be the tune that circulates the airwaves. Never, never too soon. We can sing together. We can carry a tune to everyone in the world, to the eagles and the loons, all of us together can convey that we care, so peace will be the word spoken everywhere.
For those of you with long memories, brute force is the nom de guerre of a guy called Richard Freeman, who back in 1969 released a record on the Beatles' Apple label called The King of Fa. That's F-U-H for you who want to know how to spell it. And of course, when he sang it, it went, "All hail the Fa King." And the BBC got their knickers in a twist, refused to play it, and the record was banned. And it is now one of the rarest records ever to be associated with the Fab Four. And I'm very pleased that I've known Stephen Friedland for the best part of 10 years now. He's a really nice guy, and I'm very pleased to have him amongst my long list of strange acquaintances. And I'm very impressed that he and Steve have worked together to make this record, which is, in the face of ecological disaster, a message of positivity, inclusion and community. Well done, chaps. Now, on with the show. Well, ladies and gentlemen, starting again. My name's Jon Downes. I'm the director of the Centre for Fortean Zoology, and welcome to another episode of On the Track. For those of you who don't know, every Wednesday evening at 6:30 for about a quarter of an hour, and every Saturday afternoon at 3 for about twice that, we bring you a mixture, a mélange, a mishmash, I can't think of anything else beginning with M. Lauren, what else begins with M?
Microbes, of course.
Thank you, Lauren. That works perfectly, because microbes are very small, and this shows a perfect encapsulation of the wider cryptozoological community. Hey, I did quite well on that one, I think. And the show covers hard science, weird shit, and surreality. What's surreality? Well, let's ask Miss Isabel. So, Miss Isabel, how are you today?
I'm very well, thank you, Mr. John. How are you?
Oh, I could be worse, but the trouble is I don't know what surreality is. What's surreality?
Let me tell you, it's walking your dog on water.
Now, before we go any further, I do want to apologise. We are very aware that in the last few episodes, and probably in this episode, there are glitches, and there are bits when the sound goes out of sync with the pictures. We are doing our best to fix this. Let me tell you what happened. I updated the software that we use for recording at the same time as Windows 10 did an update. And ever since then, either it is the software that we're using to record or the software we're using to edit isn't working properly. Louis and I are doing our best to fix it. But we've made the decision that any show is better than no show at all, and so we've decided to carry on rather than go on indefinite hiatus while we try to resolve the problems. I hope. And now, ladies and gentlemen, over to Richard Freeman with the second part of his Bottom 10. That is the top 10 creatures that cryptozoologists believe in that he and I think are least likely to exist.
Greetings, Cryptid Podcast Pickers. Fluff here with Rich Freeman's, no relation, top 10 least likely to exist supposed cryptozoological animals. Here we go. Flying in at number 7, we have the roper.
Number 7. What's at number 7?
We have
On our shit parade.
the ropen.
the rope end. Dum dum dum.
Supposedly supposedly two different species of Neopterosaur from New Guinea and the surrounding islands, one of which is fairly small, about 4 or 5 feet across the wings, and the other one is huge, about 30 feet across the wings. Bioluminescent, so they glow at night, and they will swoop down and attack people and animals. And they've been seized on by creationists. Now, I hate creationists. I think they are the worst kind of idiots, because A, they're in cryptozoology for the wrong reasons. They're not looking into the animals themselves. They're just using the animals in question to try and prove their crackpot theories. And even if we found a dinosaur in the Congo or a pterosaur in New Guinea, it wouldn't prove that the Earth was only 4,000 years old and God had created them on day one, or whatever it's supposed to be. Absolute nonsense.
For the record, 6,000 years old. The world was supposed to have been created on, I think, October the 25th, 4004 BC at 4:30 in the morning. Those figures were arrived at by a bloke called Bishop Archer, and I can't really criticise his mathematics because I still count on my fingers, but as both a Christian and a scientist, I find the whole idea of creationism, and especially the way that it has become a hill so many people are prepared to die on, that they are declaring war on science and declaring war on mainstream Christianity. I find it grossly offensive. Now, we've managed to get rid of quite a lot of our American audience. Sorry, chaps. Carry on.
Well, when you look at alleged photographs and film of rope ends, they're clearly frigate birds. And a lot of these glowing ones seen at night seem to be planes. And that's all there is to it. It's as simple as that. There's no depth to the rope end. It's not like something, say, like the Yeti or the Tasmanian wolf, where there are sightings of it going back hundreds of years, and it's in the culture of the area, and it's totally a made-up modern thing. And we're going to be seeing more like that on this list as well as we progress.
Now, if you go to Google Earth, I love Google Earth. I find it an absolutely fantastic tool. Go and look at the island of New Guinea in some depth, in some, what would you say, detail. There are very few roads. There are a lot of small landing strips. And these small landing strips are what serve the remote villages and even the remote townships. And it is the way that medicine, police, all the machinery of social cohesion get to these remote areas, and they all fly small light aircraft. And you would have thought that the local people would have known that these small light aircraft with lights in at night are small light aircraft with lights in at night, not giant plesiosaurs. Pterosaurs, not plesiosaurs. Well, just as likely as giant flapping plesiosaurs, except, guess what, guys? It's not the locals who ever report them. It's usually visiting missionaries or their kin, who suddenly say, "Oh, gee, guys, here we are in the jungle, and it's only 6,000 years old. Look up there, there's a light in the sky. That must be a pterosaur." May I misquote? In fact, not misquote. The wonderful Steve Hillage on his song from his album Green. Me oh my, there's a light in the sky. It's nonsense, isn't it, Richard? Complete nonsense.
We're not into rape and pillage. We like Whole Foods and Steve Hillage.
And that, I think, takes us on to number 6.
Greetings, Cryptid Podcast Pickers. Fluff here with Rich Freeman's, no relation, top 10 least likely to exist supposed cryptozoological animals. Here we go. Swinging into number 6, Eloy's ape.
Number 6, which is Deloy's ape.
It's a monkey on a stick, a monkey on a stick. Don't it make you sick? It's a monkey on a stick.
Now, the story behind this, there was a guy called Montadon who had gone off on an expedition to, I think it was Venezuela in South America, with a great entourage, and he came back with most of the entourage missing, having been killed by natives or drowned or died from disease. And he said they were attacked by 2 5-foot tall upright walking apes, which shit in their own hands like chimpanzees and lobbed the crap at them, and they shot one of them and the other one escaped into the jungle. And they photographed the one that they had shot, propped up with a stick against a crate. And unfortunately, in an accident when the canoes tipped over and a lot of people drowned and they lost their supplies, they lost the body of this ape as well. Now, how anybody can be fooled by this photograph, because the photograph survived, is beyond me, because you can take one look at it and you can say that it's a female spider monkey, and they're dead easy to identify. They have a little tiny vestigial thumbs, long fingers and little tiny vestigial thumbs, forward pointing nostrils that go straight out, and most recognisably of all, a large external clitoris that looks like a penis. I've worked with loads of monkeys, including spider monkeys, and there's no mistaking it. It's a spider monkey, and that's all it is. And the reason behind this was they needed a putative South American ape, because there was this racist theory that Europeans had evolved from Cro-Magnon man, and that black Africans had evolved from chimps or gorillas, Asians had evolved from the orangutan, and they needed a South American ape to try and explain where the South American people came from. It shows a massive misunderstanding of evolution and of how human beings spread out and populated the whole of the world. But it's one of the most pathetically inept, half-arsed hoaxes that there's ever been in the history of Forteana, and any zoologist with a cursory glance at that could tell you it was a spider monkey.
You can actually identify it as the species, can't you?
It's not in colour. I thought it looked like a black spider monkey, but apparently it's outside of the range of the black spider monkey. But there are loads of different spider monkeys. I think it might be the white-fronted spider monkey.
That's the one I vaguely remember being. How big would a white-fronted spider monkey have been?
Oh, standing up. They're big monkeys standing up on their hind legs. They're like yay tall.
Well, that's 4 foot.
Well, no.
3.5 foot?
3.5 foot standing up.
Well, no,
big one.
my fish tank here is 3 foot. It's longer than that.
So it's, and also they think they doctored the crate as well to make it look bigger.
And also, if you've got a 3.5 foot spider monkey, it's only got to be 18 inches bigger, a freakishly big one, to be 5 foot tall. It's not. You can explain it without having to. You can explain it even if you're prepared to accept that they were attacked by an extremely large spider monkey throwing shit at them. You can still explain it as
they hid the long prehensile tail. They just shoved behind the crate
or cut it off.
Mm.
Do spider monkeys throw shit at you?
I've never known spider monkeys to throw shit. Chimpanzees are the things for doing that, but they are quite aggressive in captivity. In the wild, they very rarely come down to the forest floor. They spend almost all their time up in the trees. So they probably shot this thing out of a tree, posed it with a stick and pretended it was an ape.
It's quite interesting. Well, it's actually quite depressing how many people over the years, including Heuvelmans, were taken in by it.
He should have known better. And the other thing about monkeys is that their scapula is flat against their body. It's not facing outwards like it is in human beings and true mystery primates like the Yeti and the orang pendek. And known apes, they all have outward facing scapula.
Even I was convinced by it until I was about 20. Now I've realised it was a spider monkey. But when I was a kid, we got a picture of a real mystery animal. Oh look, here we have the surgeon's photo. We have two real mystery animals. That was number 6. What's at number 5?
Greetings, Cryptid Podcast Pickers. Fluff here with Rich Freeman's, no relation, top 10 least likely to exist supposed cryptozoological animals. Here we go. Swimming into the number 5 spot, it's lake monsters as plesiosaurs.
That's number 5. Surviving plesiosaurs as lake monsters. Now you can apply all the things that apply to the rope pen and to surviving dinosaurs to plesiosaurs. They didn't survive the KT extinction event, and moreover than that, they're air breathers. So in places like Loch Ness and Lake Oakenhagen and other places that are supposed to have lake monsters, you'd see them breaching more often to take air. And also they didn't hold their necks upwards like that, like a swan, because if you look at the necks of plesiosaurs, the spines on the vertebrae are very long, so they wouldn't have been able to move their neck like that. The neck was quite rigid, except for the very end of it. How plesiosaurs fed, they had these small heads on long necks, quite rigid necks. It's thought that they would come up behind a shoal of fish, raise the stiff neck into the shoal of fish, and because the head was small, the other fish would think it was just another fish, and it's only the end of the neck that's flexible side to side. Then it would snap side to side and grab the fish thusly, and when it came up to breathe, it would just be like the nostrils or the mouth above the surface of the water. It wouldn't be the great long neck. It's classic for long neck sea serpents and lake monsters, so they make no sense.
And also, as far as I'm aware, all the classic monster haunted lakes, especially the ones of the northern hemisphere, were frozen solid in the Ice Age.
Oh yeah, and some of them didn't even exist in the last Ice Age.
Yeah, because Lake Champlain wasn't. Lake Champlain was just an arm of the navigation. Yeah. And then it became the Champlain Sea after the last Ice Age, I think.
Yeah. There's fossil belugas have been found around there.
Yeah, we're going to be doing a show about that. Katie is trying to find all the other beluga specimens that have been found. She's going to try and find and photograph all of them and chase up the stories that there's at least one right whale fossil from there as well. So I think that's a fascinating thing. But what do we have then? Stick at Loch Ness, because Loch Ness is the classic one.
At Loch Ness we have a bunch of known phenomena being misinterpreted because of the reputation of the lake itself. Because it's in cross section, it's like a very tall V. It's very, very thin at the bottom and wide at the top and very deep.
What do you mean, our mate in Bristol?
And when a boat passes along it, a boat wake can hit one shore and bounce back across the loch and look like a series of humps long after that boat has disappeared. There are underwater storms with powerful currents that can pull debris on the surface against the prevailing winds to make it look like an animal moving along. There seals get into the loch. I've seen an alleged film of the Loch Ness Monster, which is a big male grey seal, undoubtedly.
And there was that picture about 10 years ago, which on first look, you think, at last, the decent BBC Wildlife worthy photo of the Loch Ness Monster, and you look and you see it's 3 grey squeals.
Oh yeah, that was pretty obvious. It was 3 seals.
Yeah, but the first look, you think, geez, at last a proper decent photograph, not a blurry lump of nothingness. And that's another subject for another show, is why all photographs of cryptid blurry lumps of nothingness. But
and you've got
seals.
Wizards taking close-up photographs of paintings.
I don't know what you mean.
And but then I think...
Or should I say, I don't know what you mean.
I think there is something in Loch Ness, but it's some sort of huge fish, or maybe more than one type of huge fish. I think some sightings may refer to gigantic eels, and some may refer to huge sturgeon.
And there are also reports from the late 19th century from fishing magazines of there being particularly aggressive ferox trout. That particularly aggressive ferox trout that would pull the line off a reel and never get caught, which they were assuming were ferox trout, but it could be extremely large fish. But unfortunately, I agree with you, Rich, on everything you've said, except, and now this is where I'm going to commit an act of cryptozoological apostasy, which is going to get me probably getting hate mail from everywhere. When I once said in public that the British Bigfoot couldn't be flesh and blood, I had death threats, so I'm expecting another one from this. From all the evidence I've seen and examined and read at the Loch Ness Monster, there's no real reason for there to be anything. There don't even have to be these giant fish and things. Everything really can be explained by weird water conditions, the fact that you've got that very thick peaty water, which when you're talking about the storms can make the very thick peaty water come up over the water and go back down, over the ordinary water and go back down again, and all sorts of other meteorological things being because the it's such a V-shaped narrow valley that I don't think there's any real need for there to be a Loch Ness Monster unless you are part of the Highlands of Scotland Tourist Board.
But also, I think some of it may be paranormal in nature as well, because we've had the Richard Jenkins sighting of 74, where he said the thing was obscene, and then even after it was gone, there was an air of obscenity that lingered after it. And F.W. Holliday's work in the book The Dragon and the Disc, and the Reverend Donald Orman's Exorcism of Loch Ness, and Aleister Crowley's hijinks at Boleskine and the creature appearing shortly after the ritual of Abramelin the Mage failed. I think all this adds into it as well, into the zeitgeist, into the genus loci of Loch Ness.
Well, lots of people that I have met over the years have told me, and the most notably Lee Walker, that the dearly Walker. He wrote 2 books for CFZ Press. He was a remarkable author, and it's a great tragedy. He died before he could share more of his writings with us all, because he was both a lovely man and probably the most talented writer we've ever had. Sorry, Rich. Sorry, me. He was an absolutely genius writer. He could make words dance on the page in a way I've always wanted to and not been able to. But he reported that there was an area of woodland down on the shore of the lake that felt evil, and where evil things were happening, and where they get lost and basically pixie-led. Do you remember reading about that?
I don't. No, I don't
No,
remember.
that was in Dead of Night. In I don't think it was in the book, it was in his magazine. But going back a little bit to what Richard said about the great beast himself, Aleister Crowley, I did one of my best ever jokes on this show about Aleister Crowley, and nobody got it. So I'm going to try again. We did a 3-part interview with a lady called Leanne, who is a pagan and a practicing witch, who told us about the circumstances surrounding the 2 great fires at Boleskine House, which were, she's convinced, both arson. And she told us how that when she was younger, she and a couple of friends and her boyfriend had spent the night in the hut in the graveyard below Boleskine House, and they had experienced something large and human shaped running through the hut and out into the darkness of the graveyard. And she said, but she didn't see where it went. And I said, no, but I bet you if you go outside from the door of that hut, you go outside, you will see that the creature took the left-hand path. Which I thought was very, very funny, and nobody else ever got. Even Richard has given me a very nice. Next one, Richard. I can't remember. What are we up to?
If you want to support us and help us make more content like these, please press like, subscribe, follow our Facebook page, and check out our Patreon.
And as the ghost of Joe Strummer, who's an ever more regular visitor to my little studio, says, don't forget to ring the notification bell, otherwise you'll miss the new episodes. And that would be an awful pity, wouldn't it?
They might be thinking about visiting the south. Well, there's things you need to know. The south might seem quaint, but remember, in the south, they drink shandy, they keep cats, they vote Tory, they go to focus groups, they go to wine bars, they're as soft as shite. So if you visit the south, remember, think once, think twice, think soft as shite.
That was a public information film.
So, ladies and gentlemen, here we are at the end of another show. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm going to say goodbye now, and so is Miss Isabel.
Bye!
And we'll be back on Wednesday. What are we going to be doing on Wednesday? Well, I think we're going to be looking at the latest issue of Flying Snake magazine by Richard Muirhead, and that will always been an interesting and jolly episode, and then we're going to be back on Saturday with the third part of Richard's Bottom 10. So, we'd like to say a big thank you to Richard Freeman, who is my special guest this week, and to Louis, the producer, Graham, my deputy director, and the guy who pushes my wheelchair around when I have to go to hospital and all that stuff, and to Gwyn, who is doing all the management of the CFZ that I can't do anymore, and making us run reasonably on time. So, are you going to be there, do you think Mr. McCrinnan's going to be there next week?
Absolutely.
Well, Mr. McCrinnan, me and Miss Isabel think you're going to be there next week. And if you're there next week, when we're doing the live chat and the notifications and everything, if you're there, it looks like we're very likely to be seeing you.